Hey guys, it's Crystal Lee Moore Lucier here, also known as your home sweet home 519 Realtor, Crystal Lee Moore. This is Realtor Life. And guys, I am so excited about our guest today. Welcome, Suze Cumming. Hi.
Hello, Crystal. I'm so glad we finally managed to get this on the
Oh,
books, and I'm so happy to be here with you and your audience.
yes. Well, guys, this is such a treat. So, Suze, we met earlier this year. I was taking two certifications, the AREN, so the Accredited Real Estate Negotiator, and PREN, the Professional Real Estate Negotiator courses. And just in being in the environment where you're kind of imparting knowledge, but also your teaching style, it was just such a cool place to be. So, thank you so much for all you do and for taking time out of your day to be here.
Well, thank you so much, and it was so fun to have you. You showed up. I think we met in Niagara at the conference, and
Yes, we
then
did.
you signed up for the AREN course. We had an amazing group, as we
Yes.
often do, and then
Yep.
poof, almost everyone from that group registered for the next series of courses. And yeah, it was just a really energetic group and an energetic time, and I'm so glad that we've connected.
Yes. It's what's funny, guys, so, like, when we're always talking about, like, always you always wanna keep your brain sharp and always learning. This was a cool thing because it was a course and it was online, but I wasn't taking, like, a webinar, it was like, interactive. So, not only were you teaching, but, like, at a time when networking is really important, we had these great breakout groups, so we actually got to work alongside our colleagues all over the country, which was, like, you don't get that very often.
You know, it's part of what I think is really important. I've been at this for a super long time, 41 years, which just kind of blows my mind because I still feel like I'm about 40. So, that's confusing. I mean, COVID sort of changed the way we do business. We're not as connected,
Yeah.
we're not collaborating as much anymore. And I think that's a real loss to the industry and to how we can learn and how we can serve our customers and consumers and clients better. So I've tried to make the learning, and I think successfully,
Yeah.
very connected, very small groups, making sure that people get to know each other, that they have a way to reach each other afterwards. I've built also that a networking group from the graduates from the negotiation
Yeah.
courses, so all with the idea that we need to collaborate to be able to be really of the highest service to our clients.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like, and that's where so often, especially in a market, whether it's a busy market or not a busy market, it's those realtor relationships that will push you ahead of the crowd,
All
right?
day long.
So you mentioned that you have a pretty long career in real estate. What point? So I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, but I'm guessing like day one out of the gate, you weren't like, you know what? I'm going to teach people to be like amazing negotiators. How did that path happen from, like, Susan, like, "I'm gonna get a real estate license," to this? Like, walk us through that.
Oh my god, I mean, it's so many years with and I haven't been asked for a long time, but it's interesting. I was 21 years old, and I was kicking around, and I'd been at university and taking physics, and I didn't belong there because I was really social, and, so I sort of stumbled into real estate to keep my parents off my back, and I loved it. I immediately started selling houses, like, a lot of houses, and interacting with these people and learning, and just it was super fun. So I had an amazing career in Toronto for 22 years. It was great, but high-paced, and, I was a single mom. My kid had some special needs. And so it was a lot, and so I did the sort of semi-burnout thing, and then I was like, "Well, that's not happening." And so I, kinda quit and moved to Whistler to be a ski bum. Hadn't spent a lot of money. I sorta had all this money, and I was like, "Well, maybe I'll just do this for a while,"
Yeah,
which was pretty cool. But I got bored really fast.
that's fair.
Skiing every day is, like, really romantic, but there's this sort of reality that kicks in. So I started a company actually that took realtors into the wilderness to help them think better and not be overwhelmed, not be burnt out. And we did canoe trips and we took float
Yes.
planes up into glaciers. You didn't know this about me actually, did you?
Yeah.
So it was called Natural Elements Coaching, and it was great. I launched it in '08, right at the time of the recession. So that was challenging, but we ran it for a bunch of years and did some amazing trips and built some incredible relationships with realtors. But then eventually
Yeah.
insurance made it impossible. The of flying high worth people in float planes and helicopters into weird environments just became too prohibitively expensive on the insurance fronts. That's when I sort of morphed. I said, well, okay, I'll coach. I'm coaching clients. That's going really well. And then I was like, they need negotiation. Like, this is the whole thing. This is what real estate is. It is negotiation, and nobody's teaching it. And that was a moment, and I've just never looked back because I love it.
Nice. Now, is that why your company is called The Nature of Real Estate? Is it kind of like a twist on your natural elements coaching?
Oh my god, totally. You I
Nice.
love you. I love you. I love getting to know you because yeah, I'm like natural lemons coaching. Well, now I'm gonna
Yeah.
coach and teach negotiation. What am I gonna call it? And when I named it that, everyone thought that's way too wiggy, the nature of real estate. But now as the world's evolved and we're like in flow with the nature, the rhythm, the universe, everyone's like, oh, it's a great name. So I'm like,
Yeah. Well, and it sets you apart too, because I think the at the end of the day, and I was just talking with someone about AI coaching, like, this is why we have, like, podcasts like this is why we talk to our colleagues. There's, like, so much stuff being thrown at us, and you don't know what's good and what's not good. So when you have someone like yourself who has all this experience with actual realtors, actually working in the field that says, "Okay, I'm gonna actually make something that I wish I had for me," right? Versus someone that's like, "Well, I once heard of someone, my friend bought a house, and so I thought it would be a really good thing to start a coaching company." You're like, "Okay." I mean, I guess the basics are the basics, but you want someone that's been in the field, right?
I think there's a lot to coaching and facilitating and adult teaching. I've taken a lot of courses. I have all of my qualifications from the International Coach Federation, and I've been to Hollyhock Leadership, which is a school here in BC for adult facilitation. I've been down to Harvard and MIT to take courses on adult facilitation and negotiations. It just wing it, right? It's hard to facilitate learning at this level, at this really high level, and adults are resistant to learn for whatever reason. I mean, it's the process maybe that we go through education, but I'm not here to comment on that. But education's a serious thing. You have to be good at it. You have to take it seriously. I mean, I spend 15 minutes before every course really preparing myself to be in the right mindset for these amazing people that have gifted me 3 hours of their time. And to be able to make it an experience where, like you were talking about safe space on your last blog
Yeah.
post,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's nothing more important for learning than creating a safe space for people where they can contribute and there's no risk of being judged or called out or embarrassed or shamed. It's just, I mean, it's everything. So I love that part.
Yeah. Well, and when you curate those spaces, then that makes it even stronger because, I mean, to your point, if people can learn something great, but they're gonna feel bad the whole time, they're not gonna come back. So it's like you have to pair some great learning with creating that great environment, which you do like both of those things so well. So, like, thank you. And if for anyone listening, if you haven't had a chance, check out The Nature of Real Estate, check out Suze, listen to us in entirety first, obviously. But it is just so cool because yeah, you give a lot of value. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about. So, when you transitioned into doing the certifications, did you like how did you I'm sure it was a grueling process, but what did you have to do to turn your course into an accredited course?
Well, it's sort of an interesting thing. I mean, the first courses I taught, a lot of people know me from the CNE and the MCNE courses, which were American courses, and I had the Canadian rights to them. So I
Nice.
negotiated the Canadian rights. And so, that just kind of worked and they were just accredited. Like, there isn't like an accreditation process. You just have to, I mean, you could wing anything, but you have to obviously have the credibility before the brokerages and the boards are going to say, yeah, we recognize those designations. And so then that company was at risk of going under during COVID. There was some mismanagement that I foresaw. I foreshadowed, I was like, this isn't gonna go, and I wanna really protect my Canadian people. So I branched off about a year before they went bankrupt and started the AREN and PREN, which are, similar. I mean, obviously, I had trademark issues, even though I'd helped write a lot of the material for those courses. They owned the IP for them. And so, it took a little while to sort of negotiate the rights for the IP and sort of make it my own and have it all work out. And then, of course, immediately the brokerages and boards weren't like, oh yeah, this is the same as the CNE. So it's a process of trust, conversations, and it's ongoing.
Absolutely.
It's an ongoing process. And my thing is if I deliver amazing education that's super valuable to the industry, they can either accept me or not. I know I'm doing something and people take my courses regardless of whether Korea is gonna put a stamp on it or not.
Yeah, for sure. What was one of the most interesting things that I found in the course, the material was amazing and I liked the environment. What I found like probably the most jarring thing for me was when we would share in the group, you kind of give us a case study and we'd have to say like what is a sentence we would say to a seller. And many of us are just saying like things that we say in our regular. And then you ask the whole group without even thinking. You're just like, "Okay, how does that make you feel? Like, she just said this. How does it make you feel?" And, like, seeing, like, I don't know how many people had 20, 30, 40, like, just be like, feeling, like, pressured, like, they don't understand, not good, and going, "Oh my gosh, like, thank you." It's good, it's honest feedback, but it's honest feedback that you don't get from your clients. So when you say, like, why do you feel this way about the price? Like, why do you think it should be this price?" We think we're just asking a question, but what was nice was that we had, like, 39 other people saying, "No, no, it sounds like you're judging them." And
Amazing,
so
right? And
it's
it's
opening.
eye-opening for realtors at all level of the spectrum. So this is an
Yeah,
exercise we don't do until day 2 in the AREN course because I want people to already feel safe.
yeah,
'Cause it's a pretty courageous exercise. So, we have a scenario, and then everyone comes back with questions that they would ask in this scenario, and then you read the question, and we all pretend to be the client, and then we merely type into the text box what it makes us feel, not what it would make us wanna say
yeah,
or do, but what it makes us feel. And inevitably, it's defensive, angry, scared,
yeah,
defensive, confused, pushed, and you're like, "Well, that's not really." And the point is to say, what is negotiation, right? Negotiation, so we talk about safe space for you with your entrepreneurial audience to do their work. For me to make a safe space to teach realtors how to be better. But the place that safe space matters the most is when we're having important conversations with our clients. They're making life changing decisions.
yeah,
Like, think about that. They're life changing decisions. And our job is to create a safe space for them to make those. And that's what negotiation is. And what question you ask and how you ask it and when fully determines how they feel about that
yes,
space, which was what you
yeah.
experienced. And I love that exercise, but I'm always afraid that somebody's going to get offended. But it doesn't happen. But it's a
And
risky
I
one,
think the
right?
thing is, it's because I think what you have is everyone takes a turn. It's not like a roast. You're not just like, "That's
Right, right.
terrible. Why are you a realtor?" Like, right?
No
But
roasting.
but it's like you all of a sudden are going, "Okay, wait a second." So, because I mean, no one 0 people on on in a group are trying to make someone feel angry or defensive. And so you go, "Okay, there's a disconnect here between what I think I'm communicating," because it comes down to communication. What do I think I'm communicating, and what are they hearing? Right? And I think that that's, like, negotiation from our learnings from you, but also just the more I dig in, it really comes down to learning how to communicate effectively, right? And to listen.
At a really profound level.
Yes.
Like it's not, oh, I listen like I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I should listen twice as much. I mean, that's good. That's a good first step, on a listening level. But it's really having the patience and the creativity and the curiosity to understand what somebody's experiencing. That's what communication is. It's more like mindset work and self-management, self-regulation because they're going through a lot. Like, I love real estate, obviously. I've been here for 41 years. I started as 21, so you guys can do I'm old, but it's all I've done. I mean, I've done it my whole life. I love it. And the reason I love it is that we get to enter people's lives at a point where they're going through a major life transition. That's why people trade in real estate, right? Could be great. They're getting married, they got a raise, they're having some babies. It could be bad, right? They're sick, their marriage is dissolving, their
It
babies are moving away.
it can
Worse.
be a lot. Yeah.
And there we are, right? And we enter their lives in a really intimate way in the midst of that really significant life transition. And we're really lucky for that. But I think we need to take it more seriously than we do. I think we really need to take the psychology skills and the emotional management skills and the negotiation skills to another level so that we can truly help people feel good about that process. Particularly now when the market's complex,
Yes.
it matters. It's less forgiving, this market, I would say.
Absolutely. It's funny because when I so doing the exercises in your course made me really curious, and that's like a huge piece of, I think, learning. It's the curiosity. But I started going, okay, so if people, so, and this is not everyone, but if you're, so we communicate many ways, right? So I think we talked about that. We communicate verbally and then body language and then also like with our tones and everything. But I started going, okay, so when we're qualifying our clients, and this, guys, and this counts whether you're in real estate or you're just like any other business, right? You're qualifying a client, you're having a conversation, they're going to tell you something. And then you're kind of, you have to figure out, because I started noticing that people would say something and it may not, they weren't lying, but it may not be the whole truth. And so, like, we really have to ask the questions to dig in. And then it sent me down a whole path where I was learning about like micro expression. That'll be episode 2. We'll talk about, yeah, I watched the show Lie to Me, and then I read the book that goes with it. So it's was interesting though. It's helping me a little bit with qualifying because all things being equal, if your client tells you they want a house with 3 bedrooms and a kitchen with a window looking into the backyard, and you find it for them and you keep finding it for them and they keep saying no, there's something else. And what, and you're like, you're either going to find it or it's not going to happen. And so, like, what is the real reason that it's not happening? And so I've become fascinated with this, like the digging in. And I don't think I'm even close to done learning about it, but I just find it's keep going back in my head, like to qualifying people and to asking the right questions and making, do they feel safe? Like, do they feel safe sharing what the real obstacle is?
And it's our job, I mean, to make them feel safe. It just, it is, and it's the wider range of people you can do that for, the better. I've got a cough again. Um, yeah, no, and I hear you. And so a couple things you said there that were really important, Crystal, is that I don't know if I'm done learning. We're never done learning. I'm 18 years deep into negotiation, communication,
Yeah.
mindset. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. And I think about it, I write for RAM, I write a blog every week. Like I'm deep, deep, deep in this work.
Yeah.
There's no destination. There's no we've learned it. It's always we are learning it. So you can feel good on that one. But what I do know, and I think this is what some of the things you're starting to experience, real estate gets a lot more fun when you get good at this. You're with that buyer, and that buyer, they say, oh, some of the changes go, buyers are liars. Buyers aren't liars. Buyers are scared. Buyers don't trust you enough to tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
Buyers don't know how they're supposed to behave, whatever. There's a million different things, but they're not outright lying. They're just being human. And when you have the skills to sit with that, and as you say, go deeper, go underneath, create that safe space. And, these people who were incredibly defensive or shy or standoffish all of a sudden start opening up to you and you get that little laugh or that little chuckle and they get, or that little, well, here's what he's holding me back about my house purchase or my house sale. It's just such a gift, right? That deep human connection
Yes.
and it's pretty enjoyable.
Absolutely. And I mean, and there's going to be some things, like, especially, and I think all across the board, I know our markets are all a little bit different, but the one thing they have in common is they kind of, there's a bit of uncertainty going on. When it comes down to it, we can't control the market. And I know, like, when we actually just figure that out, it takes a lot of the pressure away because we
Mm.
can negotiate, we can communicate, but at the end of the day, we can't make someone's house worth more than it is, and we can't control a seller who's not our client. Can't control our clients either, but someone else's client, like, if they don't wanna lower their price, they don't wanna lower their price. Like, we can do as much work as we can, but at one point, it's not the right house.
Right. Or they're going to have to overpay for it, which, I've overpaid for
Yes,
houses in the past and it was never really a disaster because I got the house I wanted.
that's
Um, y- yeah, I mean, it's an open market, right? People can ask whatever they want for their house. There's no regulations that, the house bureau insists that you list it at this price or something. Like it's
yeah,
an open market. And if a seller wants to try and get more money for it than it's worth, then that's just the reality, right? Mhm.
for sure.
And I think, yeah, the faster you learn that, the better. I think that what you were saying there, Crystal, kind of made me think of one thing that I think is really important. Some people haven't been through a down market. I know you've been at this long enough. You've seen
Yeah,
some downs. And I've seen a down that's this big. in the 90s. There was an 8, 9 year market drop that was really significant like this one is. And the agents that not only survive but thrive and do good work for their clients are the ones that understand that it's not their fault.
Yes.
So often agents are like, "Oh my god, they paid more for it than they're selling it for," and then they feel guilty and they give biased information and it eats up at them emotionally inside. And the one thing I just want to say to everybody, like, we didn't cause this market meltdown, right? The world's become a weird place. There's a market meltdown happening as a result of that. It's just as hard for us as it is for other people. So have the courage to give people the truth.
Yes.
Gently and kindly, of course, but don't own it. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
And I like that is it sound guys, like it sounds simple, but I remember last year I was so stressed out and I had a few clients that I wanted to fix it for them because that's what we do, right? We're crazy, we're realtors, we all think we have superhero capes on. And I couldn't fix it because it's not again, it's wasn't my fault. I didn't create the market. And so, but once something just shifted, when I realized that, I was not only able to let it go, but I also was able to be more understanding somehow with my clients when we spoke, because I didn't feel there was not even a piece of defensiveness in me. Because again, I couldn't own it. Like it's not, you can't, if you've done all the things you can do, like, I mean, assuming that you're doing all the things you should be doing, but if you've done all those things and it's not moving, sometimes it's just not happening. And you just have to kind of just always keep trying to do new things, but don't feel horrible about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I bet that was really liberating, sort of coming around to that, right? I mean, that is
Yes.
that's when we become mature in real estate is when we can start really, really seeing that. And we're so much more valuable to our clients then because now we can give them better advice that isn't all loaded up with our own emotions. It's just good advice and they can make decisions that are better suited to them from that place, which, hey, a lot of people need to sell their house even though the market's hard, right? So they really need that accurate information. So
Yes. No, you actually, what I really should have done is gotten into a time machine and met with you at the beginning of last year. It would have saved me some stress. Um, but so you've been teaching people for a long time, what are some of kind of the reoccurring things that you find issues that you're able to help people solve? Like I know in our group you had some examples that you shared about what a typical buyer or seller might say as their own reasoning. But what are some that kind of like the classics that have come that you've really been able to help people shift their mindset on?
Well, obviously the big one right now is pricing. Buyers want to pay less than market value and sellers want to sell for more than market value. And market value is a difficult thing to estimate accurately and even a more difficult thing to communicate accurately, right? So I think that's probably the biggest area. And I think you also took that pricing intelligence course I
I did,
offered.
yep.
And that's a course I wrote just because of this market, right? And I mean, it's a deep course. It's not a light, easy course. And so it's interesting. I've run several hundred people through it now, and about 10% of the people that take it, they don't get it. They want a paint by numbers version of how to price and communicate pricing, and there is no such thing. It's a really difficult concept, and it's so I think I've captured that well there. And the concept there is that you do need to do a really high quality CMA. I've got a lot of agents are still using the one that's attached to the board computer, and that gives you averages of asking prices, and that's just not part of market value. A lot of the stuff that's on the market is overpriced, and now you're doing averaging that isn't weighted. In every mathematical sense, it's not a good approach. A real CMA takes sold properties and adjusts for the market changes. And then from that, estimating market value, which if you remember from the course, it's really important to understand that market value isn't what your CMA says. The CMA is just data.
Yes,
Market value is what's a buyer willing to pay.
exactly.
It's a pretty theoretically complex number. I mean, it's a complex number to come up with. But when you understand deeply that theory, it's much easier to speak with your sellers about it and even your buyers as well, so that they make better decisions, that they're not asking too much or they're not lowballing good houses or whatever. And I'd love to hear how things changed for you after you took that course, because that's the kind of feedback I'm always looking for.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, and it was really more, even though I have quite a few years of experience, we talked about something that we should never say that I was guilty of saying. And it was like presenting our data and showing where it should be. And then the seller saying, okay, well, this is the price that I need. And then saying, okay. And then saying, well, I really don't think that's going to happen. Like, this is what buyers are paying. And so and we want to position you well. But then we get down this path and they'd say, well, I really think this is going to work. And I would say, let's give it a try. I was someone to tell you, let's give it a try. And if it doesn't work, then we're agreeing that we'll lower the price. And like this was kind of like a compromise as in my mind. But as you might guess, it was never an easy conversation to get them to come down. Like while protecting privacy, like I had a really tough one and my heart goes out. Like I I said, like, "This is where you need to be," and she just, like, wouldn't listen. We ended up just letting it go and is now listed with someone else at the same price, and it's still not moving. And obviously, I can't say anything because it's not not my client. But I almost, like the market is such that not only, like, with your courses, there's also, like, almost a confidence where I won't take an overpriced listing. It's not worth it for anyone. I don't wanna like, if someone's really not willing to listen to me, then my need to help has actually changed a little bit where I don't feel like I'm helping. Like if I can't get them to see the light, then they're not really my client. And that's kind of the shift that I had with that course. But yeah, it was the we'll give it a try and like how terrible that is of a strategy.
That's really bad strategy.
I know.
I wrote an article for REM magazine about that. Anyone wants to look it up because it's kind of a thing. And I'm not saying it's like this, the dumbest thing in the world. If you really can't get them to move in price and you want the listing and you know that it's going to be really a battle and it might never sell, it's okay. It's legal and ethical to take it and, and try it. But if we think about strategy, like what we do, smart realtors, what we do that's worth the money we get paid is we build really intelligent strategies for our clients and then we execute those strategies and get a successful result. Like that's why we get paid the big bucks, right? So if you're wishy-washy about your strategy, you've just kind of given away your highest value.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up in a difficult situation all the time. And one of the things I know you talk a lot about on your podcast, I haven't listened to all of them, but I've certainly listened to them here and there because I think you're a really interesting woman. Is this idea of burnout in real estate, and it's a really important concept because you can't serve your clients well if you're tired and not healthy and not getting good sleep and not, physically active and creative and having a bunch of bad clients. And I don't mean bad people. Like they could be great people, but bad clients in that like their house isn't selling. And so they're under a lot of emotional pressure and they're pushing that emotional pressure on you. And it's just a really bad place to be in any market, but particularly in this market because it can really pile up. So I think, having some confidence in your strategy, and if they don't agree with your strategy, then having the courage to let them go, I think can be real self-preservation and can lead to a really long and successful career in real estate.
Absolutely. And I think like to your point, like it's at the end of the day, our job is to sell homes, like right to bring that solution to our clients who have a problem. They need to sell a house. We know how to sell a house. Now we've matched up an amazing pair. But when it comes down to it, like I find it's sometimes, like, with me, it's the heart. I feel bad, so I'm gonna try and help. There was a really great example that you had in one of the courses with the reasoning that a seller might tell you that they need a price. The reasoning doesn't really like, unless that reasoning is the market value is this price, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're like, "Well, I know my house is worth 750, but, well, I really need to sell it for 950 because I actually want to buy another house here." And you're just like, "Well, that's not the buyer won't care about that reason."
Right. This kind of reality check, right? And
Yeah.
it's a really important skill set to get is to be able to
Yes.
communicate that because it's so common. We get it all the
Yes.
time. Right? My house is worth more. And I always have the analogy. I use it to have a purple kitchen because I've never seen a purple kitchen. So it's a good analogy, right? But someone thinks their
Yep.
house is worth more because they
Yep.
have this incredible purple kitchen and they love the purple kitchen, right? And so it could be as simple as that. And of course, that could be
Yeah.
I have a bigger garage or I have greener grass or I have whatever.
Yeah.
Or, I'm really this is a great house, like, the best Christmases in the world happen in this house, so this house is worth way more money than other houses,
100%.
right? All of these things. Or, if I don't get this much money, I can't go to my next house, or we're getting divorced and we're gonna have to buy 2 houses, so we hear it, I don't know, probably more often than not, we hear something along those lines. And it makes sense because they're sellers and they're looking at the seller value. And our job is to help them understand what market value is, not just the number, but conceptually what market value is, and that's what they'll sell their house for, or they won't sell it. And we're seeing that in spades in this market. You're either going to sell your house for market value, or you're not going to sell your house.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think yeah, that's actually probably the simplest and most clear way to put it, and people don't like that. It's very real, but yeah, and it's funny when you said about, like, the Christmases that have happened. I always joke with people that separately from the other issue about, like, this is what we need because we have this reason that no one cares about, every seller, including realtors, probably more so realtors, we all see this, like, hidden value, and so my joke is always like, "Well, yes, that they sold for this, but you know what they don't have? Like, I'm on the corner, so every afternoon, I have this really nice cross breeze, and the cross breeze, like, there's a sun, and, like, obviously, it's $100,000 more because, like, they don't have this.
Right.
You convince yourself that someone would pay for this when really it comes down to what the market will pay.
Right, exactly what the market will pay. And I think it's interesting that you bring that up, the idea of realtors selling their house. So my house is on the market right now. And it's not going especially well. And that's really interesting because for me, it's dual fold, right? Like, one, I'm a seller who wouldn't mind offloading this property, but then I'm Suze and I teach this stuff at a really high level. So my brain is going crazy. But I enjoy it because it gives me a lot of new fodder to write about and think about and
Yeah.
have conversations like this about and all that sort of thing. So when you have a house that's really unique where there are no comps, there just aren't, right? Like, it could be for whatever reason. It's a chalet in Whistler. There's nothing else like it. It's a oceanfront in, the peninsula, or it's something that backs onto a ravine in southern
Yes.
Ontario, but it's got
Yeah.
this unusual thing that drops into the, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yep.
And there truly are no comps, right? Then it's a situation where how do you establish what market value is? And I think if you can be on the same side as the seller, that's a situation where you can try a price. Right? Because the market says it's such a wide range because we look at the comps and instead of being able to make a 5 to 3 to 4% range on market value, it's like a 10% range on market value. Well, if they're not in a hurry to sell and there really is a 10% range in the potential market value, then, is it worth going for it? Are they willing to take that risk that they burn through the existing buyer pool on it? And I think in some cases they are because it's complicated. But there aren't that many, you know, houses that are that unique. Everybody thinks their house is that unique. And, my agents have not been able to do a CMA for me because there isn't a comp. Like, there isn't a comparable property, right? So it's all these things we learn, and then there's all this gray area.
Yes, and then, yeah, we have all the theories, and then the reality kinda knocks them over. I find, like, it's so I actually, I talk about this a lot. And I'm so sorry that you're going through, like, even if it's short-lived, listing your house, like, having your home listed is awful. And I say this to my clients all the time. I absolutely love what I do. I need us to have eye on the prize for what's gonna happen later in your new house with the coffee and you're excited, you're unpacked, it's great. Between now and then, though, I just remember, don't hate me.
Mm.
Like, no one likes having their house listed. You don't get to, like, everything you own is, like, in a go box. You feel like you're in a
Yeah,
hotel.
yeah, yeah.
Can't use your kitchen.
I think I'm living in a trailer on my, Gulf Island property, and because my dog would wreck all the staging stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, he would. It would be instantaneous. Like, the stage I'd have to buy the stager all new stuff, right? So but I think it's an important thing for us to remember is because it's not just the inconvenience of the house, it's the emotional turmoil of it, the uncertainty, and in my case, I'm pretty solid. I'm moving to another property that I already own and I've owned for a long time, and if I have to keep that one and rent it, it's no big deal. Like, but I think often about imagine being in this situation if I was in a situation where I had to sell for some reason. Man, that would be a big psychological load.
Yes.
And I really hope as an industry we can help each other remember that.
Yeah, and I find it really, like, I have some really, like, feel good stories this year, and I have some not so feel good stories, and I think it comes down to trying to explain a market to people when it's not when the market's always kind of fluctuating, right? So
Mm.
it's kind of like you're describing something, but as you're describing it, it's like getting different shapes and some different colors. And you're trying to say, like, oh, no, like this is like, I'm going to help you through this. But the uncertainty of that really brings stress to our clients. And the goal is like my goal specifically is to bring that stress down. How do you find so, I mean, it sounds like you're dealing with the same thing. How do you find when you're coaching people that you help them guide their clients through? Like, what's your advice in a market like this to help bring that stress down?
The big one, and this is it's going to sound a little controversial at the beginning, right? But it's care less, not care none, right? Care, I know I couldn't care less, like not that, but care less. And it's not that. I mean, and they go, no, wait, no, my biggest asset is I care so deeply for my people, and I know that's true, right? I mean, school teachers and nurses make the best realtors. Why?
Yes,
Because they
that makes
care
sense.
deeply about people, right? So I'm not saying don't care, but we do have, I think, as a professional responsibility to be able to separate ourselves emotionally from the situation and to be able to manage it from that place. I say to people, observe, don't absorb.
Mhm.
Observe what's going on. Use your knowledge, your skills, your network of people. Bring important and relevant information to the table. Help your clients sort through that important and relevant information and help them make good decisions, not decisions that they want or that you want or that you wish or any of that. It's what's the best decision for them. And sometimes that decision is going to be not to sell and you're not going to make a commission.
Yep,
But I can tell you from 41 years in the business, coaching many of the top agents in the country, your fastest way to build business is to do what's right for the client always. It's the
yep,
business comes to you like in spades when you truly do
yes.
that at a deep level because it's rare.
Absolutely. And I think it's a huge thing. And I've said that to clients before. And I say, like, I'm when the right house is ready, like it's here, I'm so excited to help you. But it doesn't, I said, don't ever worry that you haven't found it because of me. Like I'm not gonna be if you don't like the house you're in and somehow I pressured you into it, I feel like you're not really gonna wanna see me again. So I'd rather be the person you're excited to see because when it happens, we'll have gone down this path together. No, I love that advice, and it's good. It makes me feel much better than my pricing strategy that I changed.
Well, and a step further, let's say you take that buyer and so as long as it takes to find the right house. So that's beautiful, right? That's client first, and that's all the
Yeah.
things that are so important. And if that client decides not to buy at all, they decide to stay in their house, or maybe their brother's selling a house and they buy their brother's house privately and you didn't have a contract and you don't get a commission. What I can tell you guys is those are the best opportunities for future referral business.
Yes.
You did an amazing job for them. They know you're good at what you do. You did
Yeah.
the very unusual thing of acknowledging their decision as being right, even though you didn't benefit from it financially. And they are blown away by that because it's very rare. But they also feel like they owe you something. You don't have to say
Yes.
they owe you. You don't have to say anything. They just go, "Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Suze was so great and she didn't get paid and she was like just so graceful and gracious and oh my gosh, like and she's good at what she does. Who can we find that could use Suze as their
Yes.
realtor?" So it's really powerful.
I think it is. I do wanna push back on that, though. So in that case, absolutely, I think it's beautiful. What would you How would you counsel someone? Because I think that also happens sometimes because the realtor doesn't have those skills we talked about at the beginning, those qualification skills. So if you're seeing house after house and you're just not able to qualify or you're just not able to really like get them on side with like this is what they want, but maybe they're just not like I'm the best example I can come up with is someone saying, "Well, like we liked it, but we wish it had another bathroom." And you're like, "Okay, well that's something that you could add." And they thought said, "Oh, we didn't think of that. We didn't think that of that. Okay, cool." So, but if we hadn't said that, they wouldn't know. So then that person goes and buys. They do buy, but they buy with someone else because they were able to like hear them and help them through. what is the advice then? Because I feel like then it seems like even if you think you're showing them all these houses, but you weren't really getting it done. You
Yeah,
weren't
for sure,
selling
you
them.
weren't getting so different situation, right? So the
Yeah,
scenario I was thinking was they don't they wanted
for
to buy
sure.
with you, but they didn't buy at all,
Absolutely.
and how gracious you can be in that situation. But what you're talking about, so this is interesting. I just submitted my article for Friday for REM, which is talking
Nice.
about skittish buyers. So it's very close to what you're talking about, but it's, you're talking about it a little bit. This is simply a skill set. When I invite every entrepreneur and every realtor to do ever, when you have a failed transaction, you went on a listing presentation, you didn't get it. You worked with a buyer and they bought with someone else. You had an offer and it didn't go through. Or, that is like your best learning opportunity. We call that the opportunity to mine, MINE, like mining for gold. Because, I mean, God, when I started, I got less than 40% of my listing presentations. I was 21 years old. I was like out there. I had no idea what I was doing. I was going on listing presentations and walking away with my thumb in my mouth, right? So you learn from doing it, and really, it's a much more in-depth process than the industry teaches you to be able to truly get people to agree to open up to you, to be totally honest and say what's really in their heart. Well, I mean, God, it's really not the bathroom, Suze. Like, I know we can add a bathroom, obviously. We're kind of scared. Our mortgages are, the mortgage rates are, they're this, or our marriage is a little rocky, or, I don't know, maybe AI is going to take my job away. Like, when they can tell you the real thing,
Yeah.
you've earned it. And that's a human connection, communication, negotiation skill. And once they are communicating with you at that level, way increases the odds that they'll actually buy a house.
Yeah.
Like, it's not if they don't say it, it won't be true and they'll buy a house. They do say it. Now it's up in the open. We can
Yeah.
sort of have this big hug around it. And then do they want to still proceed? And a significant percentage of the time they do. And now they feel good about it because you're on their side and they know it.
Yeah, and thank you very much because I think that is a situation that does happen, especially in a kind of a like you said, a weird market. But I also think there's a lot of buyers right now who come into the market and they feel that having like being tied to one realtor is a disadvantage for them. And so I know like I've had some chats with people and sometimes they see the light, sometimes they don't when they're just calling around all the listing agents. But I do think that that's important advice for anyone listening is that exactly what you said. Go and learn from something. If you've tried to work with someone and it didn't work out, I do try to ask them why it didn't work out. But maybe that if that's not an opportunity, would you say just kind of like go through with a coach or with a colleague? Like how would you? And
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have a coach who's been in the trenches, that can be really valuable. If you don't have a coach that's been in the trenches, then yeah, a colleague that, has the skills to be mentoring. I mean, some of your colleagues aren't going to be very helpful. We all know that. They can be nice people, but they're not going to be particularly warm and fuzzy and helpful. So yeah, I think debriefing it with somebody that you trust that knows what it feels like to be in the trenches. For sure. And, as far as getting the information from the client, I think it's always worth a try, but you wanna draft that in a very careful way. So it should be an email, not a text message and not a phone call, because they need time to think about it. And it should be crafted in a way that really is that you're asking them, an honorable thing, like that you would be honored if they would take a few moments to be honest with you because you're trying to build a professional career that's important to you. And yeah, and it's a surprising that a significant percentage of them will give you some real response
yeah.
if it's if they know you're not gonna jump at them, you know?
And for drafting that email, would you say it's one of those things where I mean, I say take Susan's courses first with the nature of real estate, but that's something that you could actually well, if you want to bring AI into things, you could bring in AI. It's very, very helpful to say, here's what I want to say, here's what I'm trying to communicate. Can you please rewrite it? And then take a look at what it spits out and see if you're happy with that.
Yeah, so let's talk about AI a bit, because as much as I'm a teacher, I'm also a writer. I write a lot. I write a monthly column for REM, and then I write a blog post every week that's pretty widely read. And so the AI thing's been really fun, right? But now I'm pulling way back on AI. And here's why, right? I'm watching all of the material come out from other training companies, from realtors, from the board, and I can, in an instant, as a writer, see what has been written by AI in an instant. and I don't read it. If it's been written by I don't read it. And I think that's gonna become wider spread. But I love it. I mean, I've loved it, right? It's been really fun to play with and get new ideas, and I think I'm a better writer because of playing with AI. So I'm not anti-AI, I'm just I how you interact with AI change has to change as
Yeah.
the world changes with AI.
It's still an assistant, not a replacement, and I think as soon as you try to make it a replacement, it becomes problematic.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So I think your idea, like I would write the email first,
Yeah,
then put it into AI and ask and mention some of the things you're trying to do.
yeah,
I'm trying not to offend. I'm trying to create,
yeah.
a place where they'll be honest and authentic about feedback. And then switch it over and throw what it gives you into a different AI model. So I'll throw it
Okay.
between I'll throw it between 2 or 3 different AI models, the same thing,
Yeah.
and see what sort of ideas come up. And then I take that and I don't print it. I write again. I now write my thing from that.
Okay. So it's really using it as an assistant and kind of just like to help. That's really cool. Okay, so
Yeah, it's fun
I
stuff.
did tell you this was gonna go fast. So
At the
what
end. Okay, what do we do?
so a few takeaways. So you meet a realtor, they're new, they're struggling, either one, and you want to give them 3 things that they can focus on to really, really help their career and help kind of change things for them. What are you suggesting?
I don't teach lead generation, not because I can't, it's because I don't like it. I just, you can't teach everything. If you're unwilling to do lead generation, you shouldn't be in real estate. It is a sales job. It's a sales business. We're salespeople. And if you want to hide behind Instagram, it's a really hard way to do it. Right. And the people who do well hiding behind Instagram actually aren't hiding behind Instagram. They're using Instagram for an opportunity to have conversations with people. So, business development in real estate is all about having conversations with people. And you've got to accept that. And if you're not willing to accept that, you probably should do something else. Then the next step is to improve the quality of those conversations. So, this is your communication and negotiation skills. This is not a chit chat. This is not a casual conversation. This is not scripts. This is not the shit you're learning on the average training courses that are available out there. It's everything, right? I call them deliberate conversations. This is not cocktail chit chat. And then from there, it's about, being able to get the contract, so the buyer agreement or the listing contract, have that great relationship with the client, and then being able to fulfill that contract and recognize that that's what you're doing, right? You're getting a contract and now can you fulfill it? If you can't sell that house, you have failed,
Yes.
right? So don't take contracts that you can't fulfill.
Yes. Yes,
'Cause
absolutely.
we only get paid when we're successful fulfilling those contracts, and again, that comes down to I've got this whole area I think about with strategy, a strategy for a listing, a strategy for a buyer. You do wanna really be thinking at that level and have the negotiation skills to close, so finding clients, having conversations, and then
Yeah,
having the skills that those conversations convert to contracts, and then having the competency to be able to convert those contracts to sales.
absolutely. And I think the thing is, guys, like when it comes to any business, but real estate especially, a lot of times, like I will hear newer agents say, like, I don't know, I'm really good at selling houses. And I'm just like, that's great. That's fantastic. You need people to sell them to. So your number, like, yes, absolutely. Like if you're not good at selling houses, it might not be for you. But that's like the baseline of this. That's the very bottom entry level. Like be good at the actual transaction. The rest of it takes so much more. And that's why we're always learning. Right. And I mean, what I love is that you've been in for over 4 decades and you're still constantly learning. Right? Like I'm 15 years in, I'm always learning. Like it's never ending and that's kind of what makes it cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting business, but it's not a business for the faint of heart, right? I mean, you've got to be really willing to keep learning, you're gonna have failures. You're gonna have people who don't wanna do business with you. You're gonna have offers that fail. You're gonna have listings that don't sell. I mean, it
Yeah.
sucks, but it's just a reality, right? And but yeah, it's a gift. You know this, it's what, realtor life? That's our thing? That's your
Yeah.
hashtag? It's the best career in the world, you guys, if you get really good at it. If you get really good at it, the freedom that it brings you is unbelievable. I have had an amazing life. I have had adventures and friendships and experiences. I've raised my kids successfully. I haven't had a lot of financial stress. And here I am, early in my 60s, racing sailboats on the weekends, living on the Gulf Islands, still really engaged with all the realtors across Canada. So
Yes.
the realtor life, but you only get the realtor life if you're really good at it.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. And you can get good at like, you can get better at all of these skills, which leads me into my next question. How can people reach out if they would like to either take your courses, talk to you about coaching, join your network of realtors, of negotiators? What are the how can they get in?
Thanks for the pitch. A chance to pitch.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm not a big pitch artist, I think my work stands for itself, but I have a really cool learning ecosystem that I've built very deliberately. Krystal, you entered it exactly where you should enter it with the AREN course. That is where you should start. Just take that. It will change your world. And then if you like me or it's beneficial and or then, there's a learning ecosystem that goes on from there. That's the place to enter it is the AREN course. They're small groups, max 30 in a group. So live, interactive, you get to learn a lot about me, have a lot of fun. And the next one is April 8th and 9th. You can go
Nice.
to my website, thenatureofrealestate.com. You can message me through there. I answer my own emails. And I'd love to help you make the right decisions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Um, this is just absolutely wonderful. Guys, if you do want to reach out to Suze, please do. Huge recommend. It is a great, great experience. And Suze, thanks for joining us today. Like, I think the help that you give so many people, and I'm sure that you gave today, is just invaluable. Big love.
Thanks,
Um,
baby.
Thank you guys for listening. This is Crystal Lee Moore Lucier, also known as your Home Sweet Home 519 Realtor. Crystal Lee Moore. This is Realtor Life. You can do it.
I do this. Did I do this? I saw some really important people doing this, so I wanted to
We're
do it.
we're gonna have a photo. It's exciting.
Okay. What's it? Can you quickly remind me what this is about?
I can. So, it's from the game charades. We just played it when I was younger. This just means you got it right. So someone's like, "Sounds like shoe," and you're like, "2," and you're like, "Yeah, that's right." But I just started doing it all the time, and I told my coach once that at a conference, someone came up to me and said, "Hey, guys, this is Crystal. She's that nose touch realtor person I told you about." And he lost his mind. He was like, "This is it." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "This is it." I'm like, this is not, it's not it." And he's like, "This is it." And he's like, "This is gonna be your thing." I'm like, "I'm not using it for business. Calm down." And then the next time I got my photos, I had it done, and then we just leaned in. And so now it's my number one asked question, even in the pandemic. So
There you
thanks
go.
for asking.
Perfect. Well, thanks
Um,
for sharing.
have a great week, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.